So Rohan, we're talking about the future of the office. I thought it might be informative to ask you about your past experiences in workplaces, and in particular, which was the worst one you ever worked in?
Well, I've actually worked in many grim offices, but for me the top of the list was definitely in Yorkshire, age 17, working for a print company that for some awful reason was next to a tanning factory. And so every day, every minute of the day, there's a stench of sheep's skin and rotting sheep just wafting through. And I really thought this was the first proper place I'd ever worked. And I thought, this is what it's going to be like. This is working life. This is the office. And actually, you know, one of the reasons at Second Home we create kind of, you know, bulging bits out the front of the building and try and make it really transparent. It genuinely is to show young kids in the area that work isn't always grim. There's like good stuff going on, and you're always welcome to come in and have a look around and stuff. Because I just think actually for a lot of people, whether it's a tanning factory or some other awful environment, that's your experience. Your first experience of work is usually, I think, often the crappiest experience you'll ever have. And so just knowing that, yeah, it doesn't have to be like that is one of the things we're trying to show.
Mm. And I suppose that feeds into our perceptions of the office have changed over the last 20, 30 years and continue to change. I mean, how do you see the role of the office in today?
Well, I think weirdly, you know, the world has changed much faster than the office environment has. You know, in the UK in 1980, there were 700,000 small businesses. Today, there's 5.5 million. And, you know, if you look at employment growth since the financial crisis in the UK, fully half of all the new jobs created have been in self-employment. And yet, if you look at the built environment, if you look at the kind of crap, generic corporate buildings going up all over the city, they look basically the same as they did 30 years ago. The cladding might be a bit different, but the floor plates are the same. They're made for big, hulking, slow-moving corporations, not this, you know, fast-moving, effervescent small business and self-employment ecosystem that's actually emerging. So I sort of think that the office hasn't really changed, but needs to. And the reason I think it really needs to is that we're under so much pressure now as humans to be creative, because if the work we're doing doesn't involve creativity, sadly, it's at real risk, that job, of being automated and replaced by software. And so that then begs the question, where does creativity come from? And I think the office, the work environment, can play a huge role in helping people be a little bit more creative, a little bit more productive, and therefore sort of win that race against the machine that, whether we like it or not, I think we're all having to face up to.
Mm. And the role of the office itself as a place in the city, how do you see that evolving?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, 1,000 years ago, the Jewish philosopher Maimonides said that the highest form of charity is to create a job. And I think the main role for me, the office in the city, is a catalyst for job creation. And, you know, the thing we're proudest of at Second Home is that we found over the last 3 years that teams at Second Home have created jobs 10 times faster than the national average. And we think that's all to do with the fact that, you know, we bring together lots of different industries so that new ideas can happen. We have lots of education and cultural programming so that you have access to thoughts and people that can help you grow and flourish. And, you know, I think that role of the office as sort of an engine for employment in the city is really important, but underplayed, because office buildings separate people rather than bring different companies together, and they also don't support small businesses and help small businesses in the way they should. And you know, I think that's a real shame, actually. There's lots of other ways in which I think offices are failing the city or could help the city. So office buildings typically look in on themselves, and you're not allowed in unless you're invited in or work there. That's not a very civic attitude. You know, the reason Second Home, you know, the cultural program's open to the public and people can come in is, I don't think spaces should be closed off like that. You know, I think the city, it becomes a poorer place as it's privatised and locked off. And I think we can take a stand against that. And the reason we should is not just because it's the right thing to do. I really think that if places are more permeable and people bump into each other, we'll have more new ideas and therefore more jobs and growth, which is for the good of everyone.
And you mentioned planning there. Are we currently set up to deliver these kind of buildings?
No, I mean, if you're trying to innovate in the city, you face an immediate challenge, which is a planning system designed 70 years ago for a much more slow-moving world immediately impedes you. If you're trying to use new forms, new shapes, new materials, new techniques, or if you're trying to kind of create more permeability between different uses. You know, if you try and bring childcare into a workplace, or you want to have a cultural venue alongside the office environment, the planning system just can't cope with that kind of sort of innovation. It's really different to America. So Second Home, we're launching in Los Angeles in 2019, and there the planning system, quite rightly in my view, doesn't try and restrict your forms and the shapes you create. You know, because why should a bureaucrat tell you what a building should look like, or tell an architect what a building should look like? There's also much more certainty about what you're allowed to build. The planning system there is called works on the basis of by right. So you know straight away, right, we can do 50,000 square feet there, 80,000 square feet. In the UK, everything is contested. You have no rights to do anything except which a planning official lets you. And so everything just becomes contested, protracted, political, in some ways corrupt, certainly opaque, and it definitely slows you down and definitely impedes innovation. And it's got to change. Look, I'm sure it will change, but it's a real pain in the bum right now, that's for sure.
And where do you see us, I suppose, in 10 years' time? Where should we be?
Yeah.
And where do you think we'll be?
Well, I think, you know, where I hope we'll be in 10 years' time is a built environment, an office environment that much better reflects the composition of the economy. An economy in which, you know, there are 5.5 million small businesses and 500,000 new small businesses started every single year. A work environment in which people, the old delineation, the old line between work and home and work and life has really broken down in all kinds of ways. And also a real need that people have and companies have to be clustered together, not just with companies from the same industry, but also organisations from different fields. The city, as it stands today, doesn't really reflect really any of those shifts in a meaningful way. I think it could and it will. And the reason all that matters ultimately is that if we care about new jobs being created, we have to pay attention, I think, to the typology of the work environment. And as I say, as we found at Second Home, it really is possible, I think, to create environments in which people are going to be more productive, create more jobs, be more successful at what they do. And, you know, whatever happens after Brexit, be damn sure that this question of, you know, how's our economy doing and where the jobs are going to come from, has never been more central. And that just means that these questions of the built environment are coming right to the fore. I used to work in Downing Street for the Prime Minister, and one of the weird things about government policy is that, you know, lots of debate and policies about entrepreneurship and innovation and regeneration and things, but really no regard to the built environment. You know, where is it that jobs are going to be created? Where is it that companies are going to be started? I've got a feeling that is going to start to change, that these questions of planning policy and the built environment are going to become really central because, as I say, in the days after Brexit, the pressure on the UK suddenly to find new sources of growth and unlock, get rid of the barriers standing in the way of progress are going to be so strong, so profound that we'll have no choice but to start to get things right.
Okay, Rohan, thanks very much.